Alright, so today I wanted to vent and get some stuff off my chest from the past about a place I used to work for. So for safety reasons, I'm just going to avoid mentioning the actual name of this company because they are just because it's a much smaller corporation than GameStop, where some very high up people know who I am, and I'm not willing to take any chance of giving them a reason to ever contact me again. I am honestly scared of some of the things that they might be willing to attempt to do to me because they are some of the most evil and corrupt people I was ever unfortunate enough to meet, and especially to work for. This company mostly operates in the southern states, as far as I know. By the time I was graduating high school, they had just recently opened in my hometown, which had absolutely nothing else other than a GameStop, which has since closed down, of course, like most GameStops are, leaving only this terrible store for the poor gamers in that awful, disgusting town that thankfully I escaped. I applied shortly after graduation and got hired as a regular employee where I made an entire 7.25 an hour. I was so rich. They still pay regular employees that to this day, as far as I'm aware of. Like, well, as of 2023 anyway, since that's when I originally left completely and all that good stuff. Um, but I'm sure since then they haven't changed a bit because they never changed in the other 10 years that I worked for them off and on. So yeah, thankfully, I live on the other side of the country now, so I don't really have to worry about that and don't really have a great way of double checking aside from calling and just asking random people that work here now, hey, what do you make? I think that would be kind of awkward. Thankfully, I was promoted to assistant manager and stayed for a few years, and due to how recent all of this was, I won't be able to tell most of the stories from back then, because statute of limitations probably. At least not until that company either goes out of business, or maybe I will start releasing certain stories in another 5 to 10 years, depending on certain stuff and things, but we'll see. What I can say is that I only stayed so long due to loving the products we sold, and some of the customers even were pretty cool too. Even though most of that stuff was used and disgusting, the town I am from is a disgusting little trap town where we mostly dealt with gross crackheads trying to sell either their own disgusting games and movies or the movies and stuff they stole from Walmart across the street. Because unfortunately, we had one right next to us, so yeah, that made it really fun and easy for all the thieves in town to try to get their drug money for like 10 copies of the same movie. And of course, this corporation fully endorsed buying and stolen product from awful people, even if the same exact people did it multiple times a week with multiple copies of each item. Unfortunately, it was mostly movies, which cluttered our shelves way too much because people mainly stream and don't really buy, especially at the time, people weren't buying stuff. Now, I know now they're getting more into buying movies and stuff, even I am, so that's good. But back then, it was even less popular. So that was fun. We barely sold any movies. We had to constantly do sells on them just to try to declutter shelves, and it still looked awful because our back rooms were completely cluttered with all kinds of crap. I couldn't do hardly anything to fix that. I tried. We had to throw away so many DVDs, and I mean actually throw them away. We dumps yeah, we added so many things to the dumpster. And I tried not to let anything valuable go, of course, like nothing too valuable because I was more intelligent than that, but still, we had to throw away so many movies I didn't have another option. Occasionally, the thieves would bring us clearance games, but usually nothing worth having, of course. They were awful at choosing stuff. They would just bring us kids games or popular other things like your Assassin's Creeds, Call of Duties, stuff that you don't really need because you always have it. Um, my coworkers and I hated that so much, but at the time we couldn't do much without risking our job because that terrible place would have fired us immediately for turning away those people. They were desperate for any product, anything they could get, and yeah, all they cared about was numbers. They didn't really care about profit necessarily, which was dumb. They wanted us to buy in all kinds of stuff and waste money, but they didn't really care about ourselves too much. I hate that company. They are so dumb. It makes me want to open my own store because if they are able to make this corporation survive for how long as they have, and like do the things the way they do things. Like, why can't I just open one store and like I don't know. I see. I would. I think I'd be pretty successful because I would know everything not to do, and I would just enjoy it. I really miss running a store and getting to walk around it, enjoying the product, enjoying the customers, all that good stuff. I know I wouldn't be rich off it, but it would be fun. And if they can do it, I know I can. The only problem is that at the time we had a manager who was directly above me, and he did things by the book, unfortunately, and he even checked cameras off and on. So we really couldn't do much at the time, unfortunately. That being said, this wasn't my only time working there. I did quit and work at a couple other places for a few years, including the local GameStop until 2020, and then I left when my manager put in his 2 weeks notice because stuff was going downhill at GameStop. It was during 2020, and all kinds of stuff was changing. So me, him, and even the I think some of the other employees ended up quitting at the same time because we just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Also, just a little tip since everyone knows who GameStop is, and I would say out of the two places I worked, GameStop was way more professional and a little better in ways than this other store I worked for. But I'm still scared to say the name, but I mean, it has game in the title and it has two other common sounding words from gaming in the title. It's pretty easy to figure out. Southern Corporation, but they're just, I don't want to say it. They're evil. They're so evil. And it really hurts to have to admit that GameStop was better than anything, but GameStop actually was. Don't get me wrong, I mean, they still deserve to go bankrupt as soon as possible, but Disney wants this company, who shall not be named yet, to go out of business first, please. I would love to see them go out of business. If the one in my hometown does, I am going to go take advantage of any clearance sales they have. Even though it's pretty far away, it would give me a reason to go to my hometown, say hi to family, and get some cheap product, probably. Plus, I would just like to laugh at them for going out of business. They deserve it. Now, here comes the fun parts. After leaving GameStop, I ended up reapplying to the previous place as a joke since I just knew they would never rehire me. I got a call and got rehired almost immediately as an assistant manager immediately. About a month later, my manager asked me if I wanted her position since she was kind of attempting to manage two stores at the time, and they had put out this now hiring request for an assistant mostly because they wanted to do like a trial run to see if they could hire someone that would be willing to, or like possible physically possible to take over the store and actually know how to and all that. And I guess they liked what they saw in me, so they let me have it for which in turn made me stay there for a lot longer than I probably would have originally because I had fun running that place. And I wasn't aware that they actually got rid of the assistant position at the time. So like yeah, they were really hiring just for manager, which is cool with me. I enjoyed it, even though they were awful. I was just in the right place at the right time, and I did that for a good few years, at least. And like I said before, they really want us to not turn down trade-ins at all, even if they are gross or stolen. And this is where I started having way more fun because I was actually in charge, and they didn't watch me very carefully. I was a wiser, slightly older adult at the time too, and I had decided that I have morals that are worth more than some stupid corporate job. Their biggest mistake was ever trusting me to run that place. The real gamer customers loved me and how I ran things, but the customer base that corporate wanted probably thought I was insane or something. I worked from open until about 1 or 2, completely by myself, every single day, which means I got to do it without employees having to see the insanity too much. I would risk my job when I would see any crackheads try coming in to sell their trash for drug money. I would literally scream at them, cussing them out, and threaten to call cops on tons of disgusting, worthless people. It was so much fun. After a while, we stopped seeing as many of these nasty people since this was a pretty small town and word spread pretty quickly that things had changed here. I also ended up calling out all of the thieves that would try selling stolen stuff to us. It didn't take much time to, or like much effort and much time to scare them off, since I ended up having a chat with people at that Walmart and basically gave them names and descriptions of people to look out for. Before long, I had cops come in my store looking for certain ones, and I gladly helped them out as well. Customer troubles aside, let's get more into the corporate side of things. They had a manager only Discord I was unfortunately forced to be a part of. I never said a thing in it, since I have so much hatred towards all of those awful corporate corrupt people. But I sure did listen in on all the sketchy stuff people said. There was a manager in a store close to mine, about 30 miles away, who would brag about ripping people off. He was allowed to use different methods when it comes to buying products in and selling it, mainly because he had been there too long and they knew how evil and corrupt he was, so they trusted him very well. Uh, yeah, corporate fully trusted him because of how awful he was, and he was one of the only other managers aside from me that lasted more than a year. He was there for probably 10 plus, and I had been only off and on for a few years, and at that time for probably a good year or so in the full manager position. But I lasted longer for better reasons than he did. I was just smart and sneaky. He was evil and corrupt. He literally would pay people pennies for certain things, and then he would raise the price to what it is supposed to be after buying it in. I know that's how these companies make money, but that was just too much. We were forced to buy in things like Funko Pops and other collectible items. However, we were supposed to price each one individually according to eBay sold listings. Yes, that's how professional this company was. We used eBay to price stuff and other. I hate how they do stuff. It's so dumb. On top of the fact that they literally don't even have an inventory system, but that's aside the point. After looking up every collectible individually, we were supposed to pay out accordingly, which was usually 25 to 35% of the actual value. The guy who got to run his store differently would buy in literally everything under a bulk price of less than $10 resale, depending on collectible category, which meant he would pay pocket change for certain things that are worth hundreds. Like, I understand that it's also the dumb customer's fault for not knowing what they have, but that does not excuse him for doing something so scummy. Especially when it was mostly moms and grandparents that he is ripping off and stealing from, basically. This entire corporation doesn't even have an actual inventory system at all, either. They buy so many things under bulk generic listings that they would never know if someone walked in to any of their stores and just started taking things. These stores all have cameras, but the cameras are not good quality at all. And there were many, many blind spots in just my store alone. I know the ones near me also didn't have a great camera setup either, since I would travel between stores moving products sometimes, since that was another thing they couldn't do correctly. Either use shipping services or put your worthless district managers to work for a change. We shouldn't have to go out of our way to get products our store needed just because they wouldn't send it to a more logical way. Speaking of dumb things that they did, they also wanted us to start buying Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic cards, which is fine. I mean, because it's popular and whatnot, aside from how they wanted us to do it. We had to use a mix of different apps to look up values, but we were forced to look at every single rare card individually, no matter what rarity it was. If it wasn't common or uncommon, we had to look them up. Thankfully, they didn't force the customers to stay there, but some would and would basically just stare at us the whole time, which was very uncomfortable and awkward. This company seems to try to do everything just to make our lives miserable. Even though they still pay regular employees $7.25, they expected way too much from these poor kids. Thankfully, I ended up with a good crew for a couple years, but once they started quitting, I kept getting awful employees and ended up quitting to move across the country finally to start a fresh life. It is way too hot in the South. I miss some things about this place, like the good customers that also love the hobby as much as me, and I even miss my original crew still a bit. They were great employees, and I hope they are all doing well and never have to work there again. I could keep going on, and I probably will in future videos, but I should probably wrap this up. I would probably do some more videos in the future, since I'm sure there are some things I forgot, and there are a ton of things that I can't say yet. I really want to because there's a lot that went down there and it would be nice to share some of it. If you enjoy random rants or just any random gaming content, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Words are hard to say on your way out. Hope you all have a great day and until next time.